Hello everyone, in this video is about sampling in research. Before moving into sampling, I would like to show you how sampling is actually related to our everyday practices. So, if I blindfold you and ask you to guess a dish or a meal in front of you, how would you do it? So, if just say that I've given you a chicken curry and I blindfold you, how do you know it is a chicken curry? Usually you have to do the tasting. So when you taste, how do you actually decide it's a chicken curry? Because of the flavor that is comes out from the dish. How do you get the flavor? The flavor is actually coming from the herbs and the spices, and that herbs and spices that makes the chicken curry unique. So in order to determine the taste and identity of a product, you need to have a proper selection of spices, the right amount of the spices, and a proper procedure in preparing the spices. So when all these three steps has been followed, you get a proper taste, the right taste for the particular dish. So in this example, when I give you a chicken curry and I ask you to taste blindfolded, and you're able to say it is a chicken curry based on the taste and the flavor that you get from the curry that is resulted from the spices that has been used. So when a selection amount of the preparation of the spices differ, the taste will differ and the end product will also differ. So if you want to do a fried chicken, will definitely be a different set of spices, different procedures and different amount compared to cooking a chicken curry. So this is trying to highlight how spices actually determines a dish, and also it is the key for the taste of a dish. So it is very crucial on the spices that we use, on the amount and also the procedure of using the spices. So how is this related to our research? In our research, the spice in the research is actually our sample, the participants, because they provide you with the crucial information for your study, and basically they are flavoring your studies. They are bringing the taste and the aroma and everything to your study. So in order to obtain the proper flavor to the study or the crucial information for your study, you need to select your um, participants correctly with the right number of people or number of participants in the proper procedure in selecting them to get the right information for your study. So this process of preparing spices in research is called sampling. So what is sampling? It is a process of collecting or creating a sample from your population. So you are subsetting from your population. So it's important to have a proper selection procedure and also. So why sampling is important? In cooking, every dish has its own spice list, amount and preparation steps. So failure to follow the list, the amount or the preparation will result into different tastes and not the real representation of the dish. So what happens when people eat the dish? So they say that, oh, the dish that you are providing might be misinterpreted because of the flavor. So it might get rejected by people or somebody who's tasting your dish. In research, every researcher requires to have his own customized sample. So failure to obtain the correct sample, the appropriate size and the procedure will provide irrelevant information. Same like your spices. If you include the wrong spices, you will not get the right taste. So same in research. If you do not include the right sample, you will never get the correct information, and as a result, your interpretation of the results can be biased. So there is a tendency of misreporting your results or information. So what is actually the sampling process that one has to follow in research? Firstly, when you're doing a sampling or selecting your samples, you need to identify your population. So from the population, you identify a sampling frame. Sampling frame is actually the accessible section of your target population. Is the usually the list of people that you have access to. And from the list that you get, or from the sampling frame, you need to identify your sample. And in order to identify your sample, there are multiple techniques to get to the sample. Okay, and that is what we are going to look into the next slides. So sampling techniques, or we can consider there are two different ways of collecting samples. Okay, once you have your defined population, you have your list of accessible participants. Now you need to identify how you're going to get the sample. So there are two main techniques. We call it probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Probability sampling actually trying to say that every participant in your sampling phase has equal opportunity to be in the study. And among the type of probability sampling are simple random sampling, stratified sampling, and multi-stage sampling. There are more probability sampling, but these are among the most commonly used. So what is non-probability sampling then? It is the opposite of probability sampling. So in non-probability sampling, not everybody has the equal chance. Maybe the participants might some participants had favorable might be favorable to included in the study. Maybe they were voluntarily participating. So basically, not everybody will have the chance to participate. So among the type of non-probability sampling that is widely used are convenience sampling, voluntary response sampling, and also snowball sampling. Just like probability sampling, there are other types of non-probability sampling as well. And these are just three main mostly used or applied techniques. So how do you run a simple random sampling? Firstly, you need to get a sampling frame, so which consists of participants in the entire sampling frame, and then you assign numbers to each of the participant in the list. And then the third step is you select the names randomly. So there are two ways of doing the random selection. Firstly is you write all the names and put them in a bowl or in a box, and you randomly pick the number or the name from the a pool of names, or pool of from the hat or from the bowl. Okay, so you pick one and followed by the second until you reach your sample size requirement. Or the other way around is you can use the table random numbers, or you can use the random number generator to identify the numbers of your sample. So and then from there you actually identify who is the participant. Okay, so for example, a sampling frame could be all students of Faculty of Human Development, because you have access to them. You can get the list of the students. So the second step is you assign the numbers to each of them, or ID, and you can randomly select from the list or the IDs that has been assigned to them. So in stratified random sampling, first step is you get the sampling frame, list of participants in the sampling frame, and then you break them into strata or group of interest. If you notice, in this example, we are using the same example, students of Faculty of Human Development, and in the faculty we have different programs. So we are actually breaking the group of students into breaking the students by their program. So there are three main stratas or three main groups. We have the first group is psychology and counseling students, strata 2 is special education, and strata 3 is early childhood. So we are dividing the list by program, and then we assign numbers to them. The third stage is we identify the proportion of the groups. So based on the list, I realized that the first strata consists of 40% of this entire sample, this entire sampling frame. 35% of the students comes from strata 2 and 25% comes from the strata 3. So if I want to have 120 samples, then I need to calculate the number of respondents needed from each strata. So I calculate for strata 1, 40% out of 120, I need 48 students from that strata, 42 from the second strata, and 30 from the third strata. So based on that, I'm getting the proportion of these different groups of people. And then once I know that I need to have 48, 42 and 30 students, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the names randomly from each of the strata. So again, the random selection can be drawing out the names from a box or from a hat, or you can also use the table random numbers. So basically at step 4, we're actually repeating the simple random sampling. Okay, and this time we're talking about convenient sampling. Is a type of non-probability sampling. So what we're doing here is, firstly is you get the sampling frame. In this case, the potential participants for your study. We are using the same example, all students of Faculty of Human Development. So instead of getting the list, what you do is you approach people to participate in the study. So you stand right in front of Faculty of Human Development office, and then you invite participant to be your participate in your study. So you're actually approaching them and getting participants for your study. So you repeat until you fulfill the sample size requirement. End of the day, you manage to get the required sample size. But again, not everybody in this faculty has equal chance. The people that maybe that you are approaching those who had problems coming to the office, or somebody who are part-time working at the office. So these are the people that could be your participant. Other non-probability sampling techniques is called snowballing sampling. So in snowballing sampling, your first step is you find one or more participants that you have trust and you have a good relationship with. So from there, when you get the participant, one or more participant, and from that participant you try to get them to suggest or recruit another participant. So basically it is like you snowball. So from one person you're trying to get the connection of the second person and then the third person. So in this example, if you notice, this man has introduced two participants to us, which is these two ladies, and one of the first lady has introduced another man. So it is actually growing. So it is just like it's like you're getting recruitment or suggestions of participants from the participant itself. So if I'm being recruited into a study, then I find people who has the similar issues or maybe in the similar experiences to participate, and then the person that I have recruited might recruit another participant. So it's kind of like a chain of balls. Okay, and when do we actually use snowball sampling? When you're doing topics that are pretty sensitive and difficult to get samples. So for example, research on polygamy marriages. This is a topic that is a bit sensitive and not many people are willing to talk about it. So maybe you find a participant who is in the polygamy marriage, and from there he might be in a support group, or he might have a WhatsApp group of people in polygamy marriages. So he might introduce another participant to you or recruit a participant for you, and then from there the chain builds. So in this study I'll have about total of 4, a sample size of 4. So that's all for sampling techniques. Thank you.